Look, I'm going to start with a completely separate rant over the fact that these freaking seasons for streaming shows are too dang short, especially when you're releasing 2 episodes per drop. Season's over in a month. What the heck? Like, I know that didn't just become the case with the finale. It just kind of hit me like, oh, it's done already. Yeah. Hazbin Hotel Season 2, Episodes 7 and 8. So, oh boy. There's a lot to cover. It's a lot that goes on. I feel real bad for Lucifer. He's just a little ADH dad, doing his best, trying to, at any rate. And yeah, he has a real bad day. I do like the little touches that he has no idea what's going on. Like at any point, he doesn't know. Like he's seen Vox once before, but he doesn't know who any of these people are. He doesn't know what he's been put into. He doesn't know what's going on because he doesn't pay attention to any of this stuff. Why would he know it? So I like that. That was adorable. We get to see human Vox, which, yeah, I guess that's about what I figured. I mean, at least visually. Him being in TV and murdering his way up the corporate ladder makes sense. It is, I would say, at least for Hasbin Hotel specifically. I feel like Hell of a Boss is a little bit of a different can of worms on what I'm about to talk about. But for the glimpses that we've got of Earth, I would say that what we see Vox's human version do stretches the credulity of the human realm. It makes it a little closer to the cartoonishness of hell, because you don't the first one kind of made sense. If they suddenly lost their anchor, they'll throw the weather person in there. That makes sense. But at a certain point, it's really? And yes, I know it's a cartoon, but I don't know. Somewhere in my mind, the human events should be a little bit more grounded. That's just me. That's a personal preference thing. That's not necessary at all. And certainly, once you take into account that it's in continuity with Hell of a Boss showing Earth and the human realm not realistic at all. But I don't know. Hell of a Boss just has a sillier tone overall as well. That was a real minor thing to be hung up on. Great song. That song, Brighter, really cool. Liked that. So, all right, we're going to circle back to Vox because I'm going to want to talk about his, what happens with him, and more specifically with sort of his defeat. I want to talk about that later. So stick a pin in that and we will come back to it. It's nice to see, more of the other overlords again, even if only more or less as background characters. Oh, I love the random joke. Who's that? That's Rooster. He's been here the whole time. I really loved that joke. Baxter has turned out to be adorable as well. I especially like that he and Nifty have really bonded. That's great. That's adorable. I think having the two of them, spend time together off screen, and we're clearly bonding well because of the whole bug thing that happened before. I think that does a decent job of sort of getting me more on board with Baxter as a character, is to hook him into somebody who I already know and get. Making those connections really helps when you're introducing a new character, so that they don't feel like they just exist in a bubble and are being forced on you. So that worked pretty well. Abel having a moment of pulling everything together and exerting authority. That was cool. I liked that. And we get an offhanded reference to, him not being the only son. So I do wonder if Cain will ever be a thing that shows up. I don't know. I would expect it if you're doing something set in anything even vaguely biblical, to bring up Abel but not Cain would be an odd choice. So I'm kind of expecting something there. The action scenes are so good. It's funny. Hasbin Hotel had a couple of action scenes. in the first season, but none of them really blew me away. Like I liked when Angel and Husk took on like the loan sharks, and stuff like that. And the final conflict was decently animated, but it didn't grab my attention as much as a lot of the action scenes in this season did. And the fight between Vox and Alistair, and like it got to Akira levels of destruction. I'm like, okay, yep, and just gorgeously animated. Actually, let's talk about Alistair. Clever freaking bugger. Oh, and like they honestly balance this really, really well, because I have a history of not buying it or getting annoyed at villains or characters pulling oh, I was in control of everything in this situation the whole time. I am the puppet master. And like, that tends to annoy me. I mean, not that he like literally had that line, but you know what I mean? That type of thing tends to irritate me because it tends to break the reality or stretch beyond credulity of how much one person could realistically be in control of. I think they balanced it just right here, because really the only person that Alistair is actively playing consistently is Vox. And as Alistair himself notes, Vox is real easy to manipulate. Vox is incredibly emotion and desire driven. It is not hard for Alistair to needle him into doing what Alistair wants him to do. And then the thing with Charlie, what a great payoff to the favor that I had almost forgotten about. But, oh, what a great, just a tiny little favor. Because on paper, he's just asking her to say this specific thing. It's just a little favor. And and like the little moment with the sort of green chain of like around Charlie's wrist when she realizes she doesn't have a choice. She has to do this. And like, I didn't know where Alistair was going with that at that point. And then realizing where he was going and getting Vox to be the most powerful sinner in hell, and realizing that Rosie having control over Alistair was in exchange for him being the most powerful sinner in hell. So if that ever stops being the case, that's a contract breach, and now he's free of her. I am going to be very curious about what they actually do with him in the future seasons, because now we need to find out what he actually wants. Like, that's not to say he had no wants before. Clearly, he wanted to be free of Rosie, obviously. But like, that was a want based off circumstances imposed on him. When he's unchained, when he's unbridled, when he doesn't have a situation that he's stuck in, what is it he actually wants? I am going to be curious to find that out. I'm a little bit excited even to find that out. Penchus got some great stuff. Like his whole little speech thing, and then like he sees Cherry, and I'm actually shocked they didn't do a Joker on the fact that they don't ever establish that he has stopped broadcasting to all of hell, so the rest of hell is just seeing him respond to Cherry and not hearing her replies. Like, I'm surprised they didn't get a joke out of that, but Penchus really, really worked well. So that was great stuff. And I mean, I love a heist. So I loved the the planning of it, the attempted execution of it. Obviously, something has to go wrong because we saw the plan in advance. Standard rule for heists: if you watch the characters plan everything out, the plan will fail. Or something will go wrong and they'll have to improvise for it to have any chance. Or if you go into a heist and we don't see the planning, or it feels like we only saw part of it, then the plan will go off without a hitch because we don't know what it is, and the fun is finding out what it is. This was the former rather than the latter. But still, I likes me a heist, so that was fun. That was just fun stuff. Oh, and I love the little detail that in Charlie's like drawing of the plans, we see like her little crayon renditions of everybody. It's like, and we'll show them that Penchus is in heaven. It's Penchus drawn in his hell outfit, the black, predominantly black outfit, because they haven't seen him. They don't know what his redesign looks like. And I'm like, oh, that's a nice attention to detail. That's a nice touch. So the escalation is real good. The action is good. There's a real great sense of tension of like if we don't pull this together and deal with what's going on, like everything's gonna come apart. I think it did a very good job of that. The threat in the finale at the first season. It was the hotel and the residents. It was the immediate, like, all these people are dead. Like, yes, theoretically, the rest of hell, but they are kind of a theoretical entity for the most part because, like, we don't know them the way we know the hotel residents. This actually, I think, did a pretty good job of being like, oh, no, we're not just going to lose that. Like, hell, heaven, everything's going to get taken apart. Really good job showing the destructive level of that Lucifer-powered laser. And like, it's sort of not as its main thing, but like by virtue of that, also kind of proves just how powerful Lucifer is. That he has the energy within him to just shatter open the pearly gates. Like that's, and he doesn't get to use that on these jackasses he's left to deal with in hell. Oh, poor guy. Okay, so we have the cliffhanger. Cliffhanger. I call it more of a teaser. That Lilith finally calls back. That's a decent enough hook, especially considering that the immediate situation has been largely resolved. Actually, not even the larger scope situation as we understood it has been resolved. Because obviously at the end of the first season, like, okay, the hotel is saved, but we still, that the people in hell didn't know that the hotel worked. They still needed to figure out how to work with heaven or get them to agree to work with them. And there's still lots of stuff to resolve. Here, the big stuff, even the holdover stuff from season 1 is largely resolved. There is an actual understanding between heaven and hell. War has been averted. All of this stuff. And so in some ways, the teasing of Lilith is like a very soft lead in, but I'm pretty okay with that. I think end of season teasers are way better than proper cliffhangers, because to me a proper cliffhanger is either failing to resolve the immediate situation or introducing a situation that it's like, no, you can't just like leave us with that. I don't like cliffhangers a lot of the time, if you hadn't guessed. That, like, it's not that they never work, but boy, it's hard to thread that needle. These I consider more to be teasers for the next season. I'm much more okay with these because you still have the satisfying conclusion of what the story had been up to that point. Now, talking about the conclusion, we need to circle back to Vox, because there are a couple of things that either have to do with him or are adjacent to him that were a little bit off. None of it is the performance. I think that really is nailed, and I think the general idea of what they do with him certainly works, but his defeat was really anticlimactic. It felt too fast, too sudden, and I don't feel like we got to revel in his downfall. So I have a couple thoughts on this. The first is, honestly, I mean, I'll put an asterisk on this one. Maybe they have really good ideas for what to do in the next season, but honestly, my first thought is they should have killed him. And that sort of derives from the general notion that you can't make Vox this big a threat again. Vox will never be, or revise that, Vox should never be this big a threat as he is right now in this finale. This should be the most dangerous he ever is. If you're going to have him peak like that, you need to crash him down really hard. And in my mind, you should probably kill him, because if you try to recapture this again and have him get really big and dangerous again, like, well, we did this already. You're repeating the beat. And if he doesn't ever get to those heights again, it's like, okay, why are you still around? I think with villains like this, once you reach them to that kind of peak power level, it's generally, unless you're going to try and do some sort of long-term complete pivot of their character, like with a character like, say, Catra from She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, unless you're going to do like a long-term, at minimum season-long, heavy focus, okay, but now we're redirecting the character to be something else altogether, unless you're doing that, you probably should just kill them. and that he is taken down just very suddenly when Val and Velvet turn on him. And then his head gets pulled off, but he's not dead. And they just pick up his head and leave. It also happens so fast. And then, like, the other thing that could have happened if they weren't going to kill him is I should have really gotten to just revel in his defeat. And I didn't really get the chance to do that. Because, again, what actually takes him out happens way too fast. We don't get, like, to just dwell in the moment of him realizing everything has fallen apart. Like, you can argue that during that song where he's going, no, this is my moment. No, like, that's meant to be his lowest moment or whatever. But, like, it's a minor thing going on practically in the background during this song. I wanted a proper focus, like, show me, make him crash all the way out and let me see it. Let me see him laid low for what he has done. And I don't think the show delivered that. Like, I get that in terms of, like, his character is unrecoverable, in terms of what he was trying to do. Like, the residents of hell have seen him for what he is, that he's willing to burn everything down just to have a petty victory over somebody like Alistair. So they will never follow him again. Yes, he has on paper lost everything. I didn't feel that, though. In terms of what I got to see, like the revelations hitting him, and like just dwelling on that and giving us that catharsis, it's not quite there. And relatedly, boy, the stuff with Val and Vox is hitting real weird. It's like so many people, after I said that it seemed very off to me that Vox was beating up Angel, so many people in the comments, either in that review or on the longer video that I did on my main channel, came at me with like, okay, well, or obviously the reason Vox did that is this. First of all, I could dwell on the fact that for all you people who came at me with it, well, obviously it's this. A lot of you had different answers for what you thought it obviously was. So if y'all can't agree with what the obvious intent was, maybe it's not so freaking obvious. But not getting too hung up on that and not trying to start too many arguments with the fan base. But a lot of people told me, like, well, Vox is behaving that way because he is jealous of Val, and that's why he hates Angel. And then we get into this, and Valentino is not only he's like pining and weirdly heartbroken. And here's the thing. It's not that you cannot take these disparate aspects. That Vox and Val have a relationship, that Vox is possessive even though he lacks affection towards Val, that he therefore dislikes Angel, that Val, despite being himself a possessive, violent dickhead, actually has some genuine pining towards Vox. These aren't things that you can't make work, but the show is not taking the time to make them work. Like, it's not enough just to have these points in there and say, well, these things all connect. Yes, they do, but you actually have to spend time on them to validate and justify and have them work. I'm going to make a comparison where maybe people can get what I'm talking about. And it's a comparison I'm going to make from actually earlier in this same run of 2 episodes. So, at the start of episode 8, when the whole plan is going on, Charlie says, okay, Husk and Cherry Bomb. Husk looking heartbroken when Angel decided to leave. Oh my gosh. Anyways, they're in the planning phase, and Charlie says, Cherry and Husk, you go save Angel Dust from brainwashing. You know what my immediate thought was? When did they figure out it was brainwashing? Because if you remember the previous episode when Angel Dust gets in front of the cameras and says, the hotel is BS and it doesn't work, Charlie's reaction was, and I quote, "Why would Angel say that?" Now, is it impossible for me to bridge that gap? No, not at all. Obviously, thinking about it and or talking it through with everybody else, they came to realize Angel wouldn't just say that. And if he's saying this on behalf of Vox, and given what Vox's deal is, there is some kind of brainwashing and manipulation going on. Okay, They could definitely figure that out. It's not that I don't think they could figure it out. I do still think it is a problem if the last time that we had seen Charlie make any reference to Angel under Vox's control, she was confused and didn't understand what was going on, to then jumping to her having now figured out what is going on and planning to do something about it. It's not that that's an illogical leap. It's a very logical one. But if you don't do the in-between work, if you don't earn the fact that she now is aware, then what happens is we get to something like at the start of episode 8, where she says, we got to save him from brainwashing. And I'm left thinking, when did she figure that out? It's not that I can't connect those dots. It's that while my brain is connecting those dots, I am disengaged from the thing I am watching. That's what I mean when I say these things don't fully connect. And sometimes it is a case of, even after the thing's over and I think about it, I still can't connect the dots fully, or at least not in a way that feels right to me. That sometimes happens too. But even if I can connect the dots in the moment, which I could with that thing with Angel being under Vox's control and Charlie knowing that, the time that I have to take to figure that out because you skipped over a bunch of stuff, or you didn't make the connections clear, or because you did something as a background element and didn't draw proper attention to it and are now trying to bank on it as a primary thing, or whatever it might be, whatever time I have to take trying to catch up is time in which I am disengaged from whatever is currently on screen because I'm trying to catch up. And that makes a worse viewing experience. Hopefully people can get on my wavelength with this now. This is not the first time I've had to deal with these kinds of arguments. I had, like, Hasbin fans, I try very hard not to antagonize you. I know a lot of you don't believe me. I really do try. But also, the kind of stuff that you tend to pull on me, not my first rodeo. I remember the Snyder Bros pulling this one. Actually, that's not fair. I'm not sure they really became the Snyder Bros and prior to the Save the Snyderverse. But back when just Snyder was what was going on and there were the defenders of Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice. Yeah, I was dealing with the exact same arguments when I would point out stuff like Lex Luthor's plan makes no sense. And they'd give me this list of bullet points of things that on paper are in the movie and would explain it, but there's so little attention drawn to these things individually, or the connections between them aren't made, or otherwise it is not knitted together in a way, even though the elements might fully exist for it to be all fit together, it never actually does. I've now spent longer on that than I meant to also. Sorry, I get really frustrated when I feel like people aren't hearing me, and sometimes I have to accept that, like, we are either just effectively talking a different critical language and we will not ever understand each other. But then other times I'm like, okay, I probably still could have explained that better, so maybe I'll take another shot. And I think that's kind of what just happened there. Anyway, songs are banger. Like, honestly, across this, both these episodes, songs are really good. Even the Hope one at the end, where, like, everyone's kind of doing the Care Bear stare at the weapon. Is it cheesy as hell? Yeah. Do I care? No, I don't. It's sweet. I'm here for it. Yeah. I think that's pretty much all I wanted to say. I am most curious going to the new season about what Alistair is going to be doing. I am very curious as to what they're going to do with Angel's storyline. I guess it's the one thing I'll come back to. I will say that the specifics of this story make the idea of him abandoning the hotel and going back to Val, it makes that plot point go down better than it would have in most comparable stories. And here's what I mean by that. I've seen these kinds of stories where a character who was trying to be better hits a speed bump and then just goes into their worst behavior. And that's certainly, to be clear, that is not an invalid story to tell, but I usually don't like it when I see it because most of the time it feels less like an authentic relapse or backslide and more like a contrivance of some writers who want to twist this character in the wind or to emotionally damage either them or other characters, and that's just how they chose to do it. It's the kind of thing that can really make me feel the hand of the author at times. It works a lot better here because of the logistics involved, of the fact that Angel, no matter what he's trying to do to better his own life, is tied to Val in a way he doesn't know how to get out of. So with everything that has gone on, him deciding, well, I can't get free of this guy anyway. Me being around has caused all these other problems. Yeah, I'm just going to go back. And so that extra detail that he can't just leave, like he flat out can't, does make a character decision that under other circumstances I would probably be more uncomfortable with, if not flat out calling out. It makes it land a lot better. Whether or not I like it in the long run depends on a lot of what the specifics are that they do with him. I expect when we pick up with him next season, we're just going to see him bottoming out as his worst self for a bit, which I'm not excited for, but it depends on how long they dwell there as to how I feel about that. But that's a future problem. Well, not problem, future thing to keep an eye on. That may or may not become a problem. We'll see. I am going to circle back on the idea that I don't think it was necessary for Vox to beat him up. Yeah, I'm going to double down on that. Because the one other thing, other than people trying to explain to me the logistics of Vox, Val, Angel's relationship and dynamic, the other thing that got cited a lot was people telling me like, oh, but they have to prove that Vox, how bad Vox is. And I guess my first question is, do they? Like, we know he's the bad guy. Some people even very specifically were like, it has to be shown that Vox is worse than Valentino. Why? Like, do we need to rank how bad the villains are relative to each other? Like, I get that as a fan exercise, but does the show have to weigh in on that? That it's necessary to show him doing the same thing everybody hates Val for, so that, oh, see, he's even worse because he's doing all this other stuff, and he does that thing that you hate this other guy for. And especially because, like, in terms of proving that Vox, doesn't have a point, isn't picking up a valid cause for Lilith, all of that gets proven in the last 2 episodes on its own. I mean, I suppose you could try to argue for me that his hitting Angel was like foreshadowing to that, but then I come back to like, why? Is that a necessary thing to foreshadow all of 2 episodes ahead of time? Besides which, like, it just works. That once he actually attains that power, he loses sight of whatever degree he was, trying to walk a finer line, because now he's got the power. What does he care? And then he just instantly becomes his worst self. I think that all works on its own. I don't see what him torturing Angel did to add or complement that. So, yeah, I'm drawing a firm line under my opinion on that. This finale did nothing to change my feelings about that. But again, to reiterate, where Angel has ended this season hit a lot better than I would have expected it to if I had just like read what the story events were. I think it got delivered decently. So yeah, action was the highlight for me. The music was up there too, but the action was great. Weird to me that they made like a season-long running gag out of Vaggie gonna change her name, and she doesn't change it, which, like, no, she shouldn't. But that there would be long stretches they wouldn't even touch that running gag, and then they'd circle back onto it, and like, we're still just literally doing the same thing. We're not going to evolve the joke at all. Okay, yeah, I don't know. It was fine. How many people are still watching? How many people stopped to write an angry comment 15 minutes ago? Well, if you are still watching, thank you. I appreciate you. Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Patreon pays the bills and enables me to do this as my living, even if you can't help me out that way. Like, share, subscribe. Those all help. Don't worry too much about it, though. We take a relaxed attitude around here, so just come on back. Next time, you need a break. And now to shout out my highest supporting patrons: Robin Moore, Jared Boyce, Zubin Lutfula, Auntie Kate 808, Mira G, Angry Casperl, Dave Hall, Oliver B, Sean Miller, Welsh Wrestling Geeks, Melissa Pedersen, Becky Sparks, Ulrich, Loki Eris, Tracy Scrabbit, Pal Barabajoggle, Sir Didymus is my favorite, and starting this month, I'm going to shout out 3 random supporters from the other tiers. So this month, my thanks to Tommy Castronova, Tim Price, and Caramelized Catherine. If you want to hear me shout you out, check out the reward tiers on the Patreon. You know, I put them one on each shoulder, they consolidated immediately. So, thanks, guys.